Vox released a hilarious article titled, "The Great Money in Politics Myth." Yeah, they did. And it was yet another Bernie Sanders hatchet job on top of just being totally and utterly misleading and dead wrong. So here's the argument. They say the following, quote, "Bernie Sanders has a simple explanation of why the U.S. hasn't achieved universal health care. Money. It's a tempting notion, but some states have actually enacted public financing, and liberal utopias didn't follow. The laws had some good effects, but they did not make Sanders' personal platform dramatically easier to pass." Okay, so they go on to say Arizona and Maine have clean elections, and they aren't liberal utopias. Got you all, you stupid Bernie supporters. All right, so I'm going to come back to this in a second, because this is the crux of their argument, and I'll give you one of their closing lines, or their central argument in one line later on here. But first, let me give you the rest of their argument, and we'll begin to break it down piece by piece. So they continue here and say, cases of outright bribery, quote, "will donate to your campaign if you vote for this bill," are pretty rare. What's more common than buying votes is buying apathy. Okay, so they go on this point for a while. Like, no, there's no direct bribery or anything. It's they're not saying, hey, here's money, now vote for this. They're buying apathy. Okay, I read the piece multiple times, and this segment even more times. I still don't even know what they're saying. Newsflash, you don't need a formal conspiracy when like interests converge. So the way that works is, it's built into the system. So you don't need people to vocalize it and say, here is $100,000. Now I need you to vote this way on this bill. It's a given. So just to give a few examples of that, Wall Street lobbied heavy in Congress, and then lo and behold, when there was legislation brought up to deregulate, oftentimes written by the lobbyists themselves, all the politicians knew exactly what to do. Shocking, isn't it? Now, there might not be a recording of people behind the scenes going, here is the money, now you vote this way. But they get it. There's political donations, legal political donations, and then it's I scratch your back, you scratch mine. You know if you want that again, hey, they kind of like this bill, which lets them do whatever the fuck they want and pass off the risk to the taxpayers, so let me go ahead and vote for it. More examples of that. Big oil buying oil subsidies. Have you ever stopped and thought, why is it that ExxonMobil, one of the most profitable corporations in the world, gets billions of dollars in subsidies every year? Guys, that's a welfare check. That's a corporate welfare check. You know what they say, right? The argument is, well, yeah, they need it for research and development. Whoa. They're already one of the most profitable corporations in the world. What other incentive do they need? I mean, that's insane. By that logic, everybody should get a subsidy as an incentive to get out of their bed to go to work. No, I think the fact that you're one of the most profitable corporations, and you can continue to be, is enough of an incentive without you getting a welfare check. So why do they get the welfare check? Because they give a tremendous amount of money to the politicians. That's how the system works. All right, another example is big multinational corporations buying the politicians to keep the minimum wage low. Guys, even a majority of Republicans are in favor of raising the minimum wage. 80% of the American people want to raise the minimum wage. So why is it, if we have this broad consensus, we haven't gotten it? Because the one group in the country with actual political power is against it, so we don't get it. So the corporations lobby the politicians to ex-nay on the raising of the minimum wage skay, and then they drag their feet forever and ever and ever, and they rarely do it. Okay, and then just to give you one more example, the NRA has effectively bought gun anarchy. I mean, they've bought it so that a background check bill with 93% support couldn't get through. Why? Because it's not about what the people want. It's about what the industry wants, because the industry gives campaign contributions and buys influence. If you don't see this, you're either ignorant or you're stupid. I want to be nice to you and, say this in a softer way, but I just can't, because that's the truth. All right, let me give you some more. Quote, big fights tend to provoke a counter-mobilization. Oh, this is a curious argument. Now, wait, I thought you said money in politics doesn't matter. Now it matters, but, oh, it's okay because if one side spends a lot of money, there's going to be an opposite side that spends an equal amount of money. Wait, so does it matter or does it not matter? Does it matter or does it not matter? Contradicting yourself. Let me continue. When conservative groups came together to support President George W. Bush's push for Social Security privatization in 2005, the AARP and liberal groups mobilized against them. When environmental groups came together to push for cap and trade legislation in 2009 and 2010, the oil and gas industries mobilized against them. The normal outcome is that the sides are roughly evenly matched and fight to a draw. Wrong, wrongy, wrong. So, can you point to some rare cases where the correct side, in my opinion, the liberal side, ends up winning because of the money? Yes, there's an argument that on gay marriage that happened, where the pro-LGBT lobby eventually had more money than the crazy evangelical lobby, and then, lo and behold, eventually we ended up winning on that issue. On net neutrality, you had these giant corporations more or less equally lining up on both sides. So in that instance, yes, you had the bigger corporations who were on the side of true net neutrality ended up winning. But on the overwhelming majority of issues, you have one side with virtually all the institutional power and the other side with almost no institutional power. So, for example, do unions have as much money as big business? If you believe that, you just don't know math. How about environmental groups versus big oil? No, big oil always wins because they have so much more money. It isn't equal. And furthermore, why would you in any way, shape, or form do apologetics for this system? Do you not understand that it shouldn't be like that even when the right side might rarely have more money? I don't want the gay rights activists to win because they have more money in the bank. I want them to win because they're right and they convince people in a democratic way. This is the way that you win political fights. This is the way it should be in a representative democracy and a constitutional republic. The idea is constitutional rights are off the table and everything else is open to democratic opinion and debate. And then in theory, the legislators are supposed to put into law what the people want. But he's like, no, it's okay when lobbyists fight on both sides because it's kind of equal on both sides anyway, and then whoever wins, wins, and that's how it should be. But why is that how it should be? There should be no lobbying on either side. It should just be about a debate of ideas and philosophies, and then you try to convince the public. That's the way it's supposed to work, and you don't even acknowledge that. It's beyond pathetic. All right, more here. They say, the obsession with money in politics also obscures the role the structure of the American system of government plays in blocking left-wing legislation. Due to both gerrymandering and a desire to draw natural-looking districts, Democrats tend to have bigger winning margins in House races than Republicans do. That means they get fewer seats than you'd expect based on their share of the popular vote, which in turn biases policies to the right. Same goes for the U.S. Senate, which by offering equal representation to Wyoming and California, vastly amplifies the influence of tiny rural white states, which lean Republican. Okay, now, this part is actually true, but who are you arguing against? That's the thing. We already know that. Everybody already knows that. Anybody who's taken a basic civics class or government class or knows anything about American history and the way our government functions, yeah, they can tell you. Yeah, Wyoming has a lower population than fucking California or New York, but they have 2 senators. Yeah, that's the way our system works. And that is a bias in favor of right-wing policies because you're giving a smaller number of conservative people the same number of power as way more people in a liberal state. So yeah, we all get that, and nobody's arguing against you on that. But the point is, when we vote for people, we want them to try for the legislation that they campaign on and the things that the people actually believe. But what he's saying is like, oh, look the other way. Don't worry about liberal policies because the system is biased to the right wing anyway, so that's okay. No, that doesn't mean you just give up on liberal policies and trying to get them through, and that doesn't mean it's impossible to get liberal policies through. You just need to know how to play politics right. You know how to win the game of politics. I've said this before, but I'll say it again here. President Obama is the quintessential example of how not to play Washington politics, where he concedes over and over to the right and he never knows how to get tough. So in the Obamacare debate, for example, you know what I would have done? There were some progressive senators who said, actually, we had the votes for single payer, and they didn't get it. So what I would have done is you call into your office the so-called blue dog Democrats who are conservative-leaning, and you tell them, look, man, if you don't vote for this legislation, it's very simple. Your career is over. And what I'm going to do is, because at the time Obama was wildly popular in the polls, you say, we're going to primary you, and then I'm going to go campaign for your primary opponent in your state. And you see my approval rating, well over 50%. The people like me, I don't even know who the fuck you are, very few people do. Who do you think they're going to vote for? The primary guy or you? And then that person's going to, you twist their arm and make them vote the right way. And they will! They're going to save their ass. You know what people care about in Washington? Their ass. So this idea of like, concede, the system's biased to the right, so therefore it's over. No, you still should fight and play politics the right way for liberal positions. You're just doing defeatism. And you are doing apologetics for not getting the right ideas implemented. All right, and now I'm going to give you the last line here, and this is the core of their argument, to go back to the first point as well. They say, quote, the real problem for the left is that many Americans are conservative, and that's never going to change. I see. Now, that's what I like to call an opinion, and it's also what I like to call ignorant. So, in order to counter this, let me point you in the direction of a different Vox article with Vox's very own polling data, scientific polling data. Let's take a look at that. Oh, wow, Americans are intrigued by a political revolution. That doesn't sound very conservative to me, does it to you? And look at this. Overall, 54% of the American people are in favor of a political revolution to redistribute money from the wealthiest Americans to the middle class. Only 30% are against. We have independents, 51% in favor, only 27% against. We have people who didn't vote in 2012, 58% in favor, only 19% against. We have Tea Party supporters, 55% of even Tea Party supporters say, yes, redistribution of wealth is the way to go. The only people who are against are seniors. But the country is solidly on the side of redistribution of wealth from the rich to everybody else. That is a profoundly liberal idea. All right, let me give you more here. Much of Bernie Sanders' agenda polls well. Raise taxes on the wealthy. 73% of Americans support that liberal idea. Raise taxes on big corporations. 66% support. That's a liberal idea. Single-payer healthcare. 55% support. That's a liberal idea. And free college, the one that all the establishment Democrats are mocking as, oh my God, that's so far out there. 59% of the American people are in favor. It's a liberal idea. So the bottom line is, it's not true that the American people are conservative. They're not conservative. They're not center-right. They're not center. They're not even left. They are far left. Far left in America is the mainstream. And when I say far left, let me be clear here. I'm talking about far left in the context of the establishment American political system, where they consider a guy like Bernie off the fucking spectrum to the left. Well, if that's the case, then the American people are also off the spectrum to the left. So, in other words, how do we explain a system wherein Congress consistently has like a 15% approval rating? That's unbelievable, guys. The politicians are not representing you. The politicians don't give a shit about what you want. So who are they listening to? If you follow the money, they are listening to the lobbyists. They are listening to the big corporations. They are listening to the rich. That's not an opinion. That's a fact. There was a political science study from Princeton, which said that the U.S. is now effectively an oligarchy. We're no longer a representative democracy. See, this is research. This is based on evidence. And the bottom line is, the American people indeed are left-wing. They do want these liberal proposals. And the main thing that's blocking it from happening is money in politics. So Bernie is 100% right. This Vox article is pathetic and 100% wrong.